Okay, good morning. It's Sunday. It's Sunday morning, about 7 o'clock on October 11th. That Sunday morning just turns out to be a good time for me to do these wrap-ups, just in terms of availability. It's not a good time from the perspective that I like to kind of start by telling you where everyone is in the class, and at this moment in time, there's only about half of you have done the Chapter 7 exam, and so grades are going to change before the end of the day today. They did last week. If you remember, last week I reported where you were, and you were in pretty good shape, but by the end of the day, last Sunday, you had made real good strides, so that I think more than 75% of people in both classes were on track, and that's going to be the case here. Right now I've got 70% of the class over 350 points. Heck, I've got almost 60% over 400 points, and I think 5 people over 500. The highest score right now is 534. So, you just continue to do it, which makes me really, really proud and a little surprised. I don't know how you're doing it, to tell you the truth, because you're not so. I'm not getting that much engagement. I'm getting some, but not a lot. So I can only assume that you're carrying on by yourself, or you've got a tutor or a friend or someone that's helping you through. Either way, that's so good. That is so good. That's the most valuable thing about this class, to tell you the truth. Learning how to learn is much more valuable than learning details about statistics. I'll guarantee you. I remember when I was taking an oral exam in college that the professor said, "Oh, this is the last test you'll ever have to take, Price." And that's the kind of attitude you get from an academic, because that was the case for them. But you go out into the real world, and I'll guarantee you there are plenty of tests in your future. And therefore, you're going to continue to learn. In fact, to advance in your career, you have to continue to learn. So picking up these skills to teach yourself material is just totally invaluable. So let me give you a little heads up about what's coming. I told you last week, and I'll tell you again, that Chapter 7 on the central limit theorem absolutely is a separation between descriptive statistics and inferential. Chapter 8 starts the first topic proper in inferential statistics. It's about confidence intervals. So let me give you a minute and a half tutorial on what a confidence interval is. Confidence intervals are about estimating parameters. Yeah. So if someone asks you a question, asks you to estimate, hey, how old do you think that girl is? A perfectly fine answer would be called a point estimate if you were to reply, I think she's 22. Okay, perfectly fine answer. If it's got any shortcoming, as the estimator, you're not giving the person you're giving the estimate to any idea how accurate that estimate is. Maybe 22 is a wild-ass guess. Maybe you know that girl's sister and you've asked her and she's 22. You didn't say that, you just said 22. So maybe a slightly better answer would have been to say, I think she's between 19 and 22. Okay, or whatever it is. So now you've given some range. You're more likely to be right with that range than just that 22 if you're kind of guessing. And you've given a little bit of information to the questioner as to what you think the answer is. Here's an even better way that you are allowed to do in statistics. With a little calculation, you might be able to say, I'm 95% confident that she's between 19 and 22. Yeah, I'm 95% confident. Okay, well, there's a pretty good answer, right? You've kind of put a bound, kind of a small bound on her age, and you're saying, this is a good number, I'm 95% certain. You've got to do the calculation, right? And in fact, if you're 95% certain that she's between 19 and 22, maybe you're 99% certain that she's between 18 and 23, right? Widen that interval a little bit and your confidence goes up. Now, if you're like me, you're going to be just a little bit on the disappointed side when you see what the idea of confidence really means. Because again, if you're like me, you would like 95% confident to mean there's a 95% chance that her age is in that the limit that I've given you, and that's not what it means. Yeah, but what's funny is, you know, I'll show you a textbook, and I'm sure there's many out there that caution you just as I am right now, and then totally misuse it a little bit later on. So the confidence, the 90%, 95% confidence is a little bit of a subtlety. It takes a little bit getting used to understand exactly what it is. But there you have it. That's what we're going to do in Chapter 8. We're going to learn how to put confidence intervals on means and proportions. And, you know, my dog is barking. I gotta take a time out. Okay, sorry about that. That was a dog timeout. I've got 2 more timeouts left in this video. So the last thing I want to talk about is the happy news for me is I am darn near creating this class. Darn near done creating this class. I've been kind of working ahead of you guys, quite far ahead of you, and I've got probably today I'll finish both the I finished all the modules. I'm finishing the final exam and the practice final exam, and I think it's worth talking about those, at least the final exam, right now, to give you kind of a caution. The final exam looks a little different than your other exams in a lot of ways. It's got a stronger admixture of conceptual type problems. I don't think you're going to find it particularly easy. There's one element about it that I think you're going to find difficult. Maybe there's more than one. But it's the following. If you take your calculator and you open it up, and you go to stat and go over to tests now. Let me just read these off. You've got z-test, t-test, 2 sample z-test, 2 sample t-test, 1 prop z-test, 2 prop z-test, z-interval, t-interval, 2 sample z-interval. Wait, there's more. Let me just scroll down here. That was the first 9. Here comes 2 sample t-interval, 1 prop z-int, 2 prop z-int, chi-squared test, chi-squared goodness of fit test, 2 sample f-test, len-reg t-test, len-reg t-interval, ANOVA. I think I counted those. There's 18 different tests. Now here's the good news. You're not going to learn all of those. Here's the bad news. You're going to learn about 14 of them. Okay, over, what do we have? We have, at this point in time, another 6 weeks of instruction and then 2 weeks to take the test. So that comes out to, 5 tests every 2 weeks you have to learn. Now, there's nothing difficult about executing the tests. The test data entry. You're going to put data in lists. You're going to load them into one of these tests. You're going to push the button. Calculator's going to do everything for you. But for every test, there's kind of a body of knowledge. And worst, there's a connection that you have to make from a problem to a recognition on your half. Reading the problem, you have to recognize what type of test is required to answer that problem. And over time that becomes a little easier, but I guarantee you're going to be a little bit overwhelmed and going, Jesus, this is a z-test, this is a t-test, this is 2 sample, I don't know, right? That's the difficulty. So what I'm telling you is you have to really pay attention to how things are worded. You have to really understand what the tests are all about, what they do in detail. You have to understand. I don't mean what the machinations are, but some tests are to compare 2 parameters. Some tests are to compare a whole list of parameters to some theoretical parameters. Some are to determine if the set of all these sample means are the same. You have to know it at that level of detail so you can do the test. So a little cautioning. You probably can't understand that. As we get into not so much the next chapter, but maybe the next chapter, next 2 chapters after that, 9 and 10, you're going to start to get under your belt enough of these tests. You're going to see there's similarities between them. They're a little bit difficult to tell apart, and you're going to start to appreciate what the difficulty is that I'm talking about. So good luck, keep doing what you're doing. Do well for the remainder of the day, and we'll start on chapter 8 next week. Thanks.